What's the one compliment she still remembers? Even years later? It's not, "You're beautiful," not, "You're sexy." It's something quieter, like, "You make me feel safe to be myself," or "You see things no one else notices." That's the compliment she carries, the one she replays in her mind when the world gets loud. In this video, we're diving into those compliments, the kind that reach her soul and make her never forget you. Part 1. The light she doesn't know she carries, but you do. There's a kind of woman who doesn't command the room by volume, by drama, or by how tightly she's dressed. She walks in quietly, smiles, and the entire atmosphere shifts. You feel it before you can name it. The tension breaks. Conversations seem lighter. People exhale. And suddenly, you're more alive just because she showed up. That's the power of a genuine smile. Not the rehearsed kind, not the social media one, but the one that comes from somewhere real, calm, effortless, and filled with something warm you can't quite describe. You've seen this before. Maybe it was on a Wednesday afternoon, in a bookstore. She reached for a book, made brief eye contact, and smiled. And just like that, your day felt better. You didn't even speak, but something in you remembered her. That's what most men miss. They're so busy chasing curves, compliments, and chaos, they never stop long enough to feel. But the man who slows down, who notices, who sees the beauty in what others ignore, he becomes unforgettable. So when you say, "Your smile could brighten up an entire room," you're not complimenting her lips. You're honoring her impact. You're telling her that her very presence brings light not just to you, but to the entire space around her. And that is rare. A woman doesn't hear that every day, because most men think beauty is about appearance. But beauty that changes the energy of a room, that's not beauty. That's radiance. And radiance can't be faked. Now here's the Stoic part. A Stoic man doesn't just respond to the world, he observes it. He sees through noise. He listens with more than his ears. He doesn't speak to impress. He speaks to reflect what is true. So when he gives a compliment, it lands. It stays. Because it comes from presence, not performance. So say it. Tell her. Not as a line, not as a flirt, not as a game. Say it like a man who recognizes the light in others because he's found some of it in himself. Say it with stillness. Say it once. And let the silence that follows carry the weight of what you just made her feel. Because that moment, that quiet recognition, will stay with her. Not just that day, but every time she walks into a room and wonders if anyone sees the light she carries. You did. And that will never be forgotten. Part 2. The scent that stays even after she's gone. Some women leave a mark without ever trying. They don't demand your attention. They don't chase the spotlight. They pass by and something lingers. Not her voice, not her looks, but something quieter, something that stays long after she's gone. Her scent. There's a moment you didn't expect. You're walking out of a cafe. The door closes behind you. And there it is, her perfume still suspended in the air. Soft, subtle, but unforgettable. You stop. And for a second, it's like she's still there. That's not just chemistry, that's memory. Scent is the most primal of all senses. It bypasses logic and goes straight to the limbic brain where emotion and memory live. That's why one smell can take you back 10 years. To a touch, to a feeling, to a moment you didn't know mattered until it became impossible to forget. And when a woman chooses a scent that moves you without effort, she's not just dressing for the day. She's leaving a signature on your nervous system. Most men miss this. They say things like, "You look good," or "nice outfit." But the man who notices what lingers, the echo of her, he's the one she remembers too. Because he's present, because he feels more than he speaks, because he notices what others overlook. So when you say, "That fragrance you're wearing is addictive," you're not just complimenting her perfume. You're saying, "You stay with me even in absence." You're saying, "There's something about you I can't unfeel." And that is unforgettable. Now here's the Stoic thread. A Stoic man doesn't cling, doesn't crave, doesn't chase, but he notices. He feels deeply without drowning in it. He sees beauty but doesn't try to possess it. So when he speaks, it's not to impress. It's to reflect what island, and when he gives a compliment, it's a mirror, not a hook. So say it once. Say it calmly. Say it because it's true. Then walk away like a man who's comfortable feeling something real, even if it's fleeting, because she might forget the words you said. But every time she sprays that scent again, she'll remember how you made her feel the moment you said it. That, my friend, is presence. And presence always lingers longer than perfume. Part 3. She didn't even try, but you wanted to be better because of her. Some people talk about self-improvement like it's a solo mission. They say it's you versus you. And maybe, most of the time, that's true. But then, someone walks into your life. And without saying a word, they change everything. You're not trying to impress them. You're not chasing validation. You just feel it, this quiet pull toward a better version of yourself. Because being around them makes anything less feel disrespectful. To them, to you. That's the kind of woman this island. She doesn't preach. She doesn't post quotes about grind mode. She simply lives, fully, intentionally. And something about her presence reminds you of who you could be if you stop playing small. It starts subtly. You fix your posture. You clean up your desk. You reread that book you abandoned. You even start talking to yourself with more respect. Not because she asked, but because something about her energy makes you want to rise. She's not a cheerleader. She's not there to fix you. She's simply a mirror. And in her presence, you remember what it feels like to take yourself seriously again. And here's what makes that rare. Most people drain. They interrupt your rhythm and add chaos to your clarity. They pull you into their storms and expect you to rescue them. But she elevates. She doesn't fill the silence, she enriches it. She doesn't demand attention, she commands respect without asking for it. She doesn't need to be the center because her orbit is enough. And when you say, "Your energy makes me want to be the best version of myself," you're not flattering her. You're acknowledging her power. You're saying, you don't just light up a room, you ignite direction in others. You remind me that growth doesn't have to be loud to be real. Now here's where Stoicism speaks. The Stoic man doesn't seek comfort. He seeks challenge. He surrounds himself with people who sharpen him, not flatter him. He values presence that provokes clarity, not distraction. So when a woman makes you want to stand taller, speak wiser, live deeper, you honor that. Not with gifts, not with grand gestures, but with honesty. You tell her the truth, that her being herself reminded you of who you could become. And maybe she won't know what to say. Maybe she'll brush it off, but you'll know. And somewhere in her, she'll feel it too. Because real impact doesn't shout. It inspires. And the woman who awakens the best in you, without even trying, deserves to hear that she did. Part 4. The quiet ways she cares and why you finally noticed. She didn't say much. She never needed to. But somehow, she always knew when you were tired, not physically, but soul tired. She remembered the smallest detail from a story you told 3 weeks ago. She checked in on people when no one else did. Not because it looked good, but because it was real. She's the kind of woman whose care doesn't come with a spotlight. It's in the way she offers you the last bite without thinking, in how she texts back with full sentences, in how she holds space for others when they fall apart, even if she's quietly unraveling too. And for a long time, you didn't notice. You were too busy chasing loud, too distracted by sparkles that disappeared the moment the light shifted. But then something happened. Maybe you grew. Maybe you got quiet enough to see what's actually rare. And one day, you just said it. You're honestly one of the most thoughtful people I've ever met. And she looked at you surprised, because people don't usually see that. They see the surface. They notice the bold. They miss the depth. But not you. Not anymore. You finally understood that the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more grace. And her thoughtfulness, her way of seeing others without being asked, of giving without keeping score, that's grace in its purest form. It hit you one night when she offered you tea without asking. The kind you like, the exact way you like it. She never made a big deal out of it. She never asked for credit. She just cared. Quietly, consistently, like the kind of soul who doesn't need to be noticed to feel full, but still deserves to be seen. From a Stoic lens, this is the kind of strength that rarely gets applause. It's not flashy. It's not marketed. But it's powerful. The Stoics taught that virtue is the highest good and that real strength is in character, not image. So when you honor a woman's thoughtfulness, you're not just giving her a compliment. You're recognizing a moral choice to care in a world that constantly encourages self-interest. She didn't need to be seen, but you saw her anyway. And in that moment, your words didn't just make her feel appreciated, they made her feel understood. And that, my friend, is a rare gift. Because she'll forget the compliments about her beauty, but she'll remember the moment someone finally noticed her kindness. Not the loud kind, the quiet, consistent kind. The kind that never asked for recognition, but deserved it all along. Part 5. The way she makes people feel safe without saying a word. You've seen it. Not in grand speeches, not in loud moments, but in the quiet pauses between them. She walks into a room and something settles. Not because she's the loudest, but because her presence doesn't compete. It calibrates the space. You notice it when someone's anxious, she doesn't interrupt, she listens. When someone's unsure, she doesn't rush them, she holds space. She doesn't try to fix people. She just lets them feel like they don't have to explain themselves. That, my friend, is emotional presence. Not performance, not charm, but a quiet gift of making others feel like they belong. And the strange thing is, she probably doesn't even realize she's doing it. It's not calculated. It's not curated for attention. It's just who she island. You saw it one evening, maybe at a gathering, or in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday. Someone was unraveling. Everyone else felt awkward, unsure of what to do. But her? She didn't panic. She didn't avoid. She just sat closer. Softer voice, gentle eyes. She reminded them without saying it, you're still human. You're still worthy. I'm not leaving. That moment stayed with you. Because in a world full of voices fighting to be heard, she became the silence people needed to feel safe. And so, one day, you said it. You have this incredible way of making people feel comfortable and truly valued. And she paused, maybe blushed, maybe looked away, because she's not used to being seen for that. But you meant every word. From a Stoic perspective, presence is power. Not dominance, not noise, but the kind of power that calms chaos simply by standing in the middle of it and not being moved. The Stoic man doesn't seek to impress. He seeks to be solid, and he recognizes those rare souls who do the same, not with volume, but with grounded grace. She doesn't fill a room by walking in. She fills it by allowing others to breathe. So when you tell her, you make people feel seen, you're not flattering her. You're honoring the quiet strength it takes to make others feel like they matter, especially in a world that's forgotten how to listen. And trust me, she'll never forget the man who finally saw that in her. Not because she needed the compliment, but because, maybe for the first time, someone held space for her too. Part 6. Her realness wasn't loud, but it was unshakable. She didn't follow trends, didn't repost quotes to seem deep, didn't shapeshift just to fit the room. And maybe, at first, you misunderstood her. You thought she was distant, or difficult, or just different. But then, you really listened. And what you heard wasn't a woman trying to stand out, but one quietly refusing to disappear. Not rebellious, just honest. Even when honesty made things harder. Even when it cost her comfort. She stood her ground when others judged. Chose truth over politeness. Held her values steady even when it made her the odd one out. And the longer you stayed around her, the more you saw how rare that was. Because the world teaches performance. Smile for the camera. Say what's safe. Blend in. Don't rock the boat. But this woman, she told the truth, even if her voice trembled, owned her flaws without apology, claimed her strength without needing applause. There was no act, no strategy, no mask. Just raw honesty, not to impress, but to breathe free. She didn't need to be loud, because her quiet truth, it echoed. One day you told her, "I love how real you are. You don't try to fit in." And in that moment she froze. Not because she doubted you, but because no one had ever said it like that. She was used to being called too much, too blunt, too intense, but not real, not enough. That was the first time someone saw her without asking her to shrink. Not for what she tried to become, but for what she refused to change. From a Stoic lens, authenticity isn't about rebellion. It's about alignment between what you believe, what you say, and how you live. The Stoic man sees this. He doesn't chase approval, he stands in integrity. And when he meets someone who won't trade truth for applause, he recognizes a kindred soul. So if you ever cross paths with a woman like her, don't flatter the surface. Look deeper. Acknowledge the quiet courage it takes to be herself. In a world constantly trying to rewrite her, she doesn't want worship. She wants to be seen clearly, truthfully, fully. And when you give her that, you're not just offering a compliment. You're giving her back the piece of herself the world tried to edit away. And trust me, she'll never forget the man who let her stay whole. Part 7. The way she sees the world and how it quietly changes yours. She didn't try to sound profound. Didn't speak in quotes. Didn't need to. Still, every time she shared a thought, something in you paused. Not because it was polished, but because it was precise. She noticed what others missed. In a crowded room where most people scanned for faces they knew, she caught the flicker in someone's eyes, the subtle discomfort, the stories between the lines. Where others looked past, she lingered, not to analyze, not to judge, just to understand. You were used to noise masquerading as depth, surface chatter wrapped in borrowed phrases, people who spoke just to avoid silence. But with her, the silence was part of the conversation. She asked questions without answers, let pauses breathe, held space for complexity without rushing to solve it. And being around her, You changed. Your pace slowed. Your thoughts deepened. You found yourself not just listening to her, but listening better to everything. This wasn't charisma. It was clarity. And clarity? That's rare. One night, over nothing more than shared tea and stillness, you looked at her and said, "I love the way you see the world. It really makes me think." She didn't glow or deflect. She just met your gaze, like she'd been waiting for someone to finally say it, because what you really meant was, "You see what I've missed, and that changes me." From a Stoic lens, this matters deeply. A Stoic man doesn't fill his life with stimulation. He filters for meaning. He seeks minds that sharpen his own, not flatter it. To him, perception is power, because how you see shapes what you do. So when he meets a woman with a rare lens, one unclouded by trends, untouched by noise, he doesn't just admire her, he learns from her, not because she hands him truth, but because she invites him to search for it. And that kind of presence stays. Long after the conversations end, long after her voice becomes a memory, you'll still be seeing the world slightly differently. More slowly, more consciously, not because she told you what to think, but because she reminded you to think for yourself. Part 8. Her mission wasn't for show, but you could feel it every time she moved. I never had to ask what drove her. It was there in the way she protected her mornings, how she made decisions without drama or delay. There was no need for slogans or speeches. Her purpose lived in the rhythm of her life. The way she moved through the world, it made noise without raising her voice. Not to be admired, but because she simply couldn't live disconnected from what mattered. She never rushed, yet never drifted. Every action felt earned. Nothing about her was casual, not her time, not her energy, not the way she looked at the future. And somehow, just by watching her, I saw myself more clearly. The places I made excuses, the hours I gave away to things that didn't matter, the dreams I had shelved telling myself I'd get to them someday. She never pointed it out. She didn't need to. Her clarity spoke louder than any advice I'd ever been given. One night, I said it without even planning to. "I love how you move with purpose. You make me want to realign my life." She paused, not to soak in the compliment, but as if that sentence finally landed where it belonged. Not on her pride, but on her truth. And that's what struck me. This wasn't about ambition. It was about alignment. She knew what mattered to her and refused to betray it. Even when no one was watching, even when the path was lonely. The world teaches us to chase recognition. She chased meaning, and in that quiet resistance, she became the most grounded person I'd ever known. I used to think purpose had to be loud. She showed me it only needs to be honest. Now, when I think about strength, I don't picture control. I picture conviction that doesn't flinch. And I'll never forget the feeling of standing next to someone who didn't just inspire me to be better, but reminded me that I already knew how. Final reflections and your presence challenge. There's a difference between saying what's expected and saying what's felt. Most men compliment beauty, but very few acknowledge essence. The quiet strength, the emotional intelligence, the way she brings peace just by being there. When you speak to those parts of her, you're not just making her feel special, you're making her feel seen. And in that moment, you're no longer another voice in the crowd. You become the man she remembers, not for how loudly you praised her, but for how deeply you understood her. So here's your challenge. This week, don't just compliment. Observe, feel, speak from presence, not performance. Tell her what she brings into a room that no one else notices. Tell her how her steadiness makes you want to be a better man. And then say less. Let your silence carry what words can't. That's what makes an impact. That's what lingers. If this spoke to something in you, subscribe to Petals of Stoicism, like the video, and leave a comment below. Which compliment hit different and why? Your voice matters, and your presence does too. I'll see you in the next one.